Bom bininong outra edição com AQ3. Se você está buscando ideia ng como decorar o seu camber youthfully, look no further. Aqui na AQ3, nós podemos com full setup para o seu camber colorido. Começando com uma variação grande de cama bonita. Nos diferentes sizes de study desk para câmera mais amplio e study desk para câmera mais chiquito. Nos bookcases e sem dúvida stool colorido e wall arts que nós oferece. E para sleepover, nenhum problema. Aqui na AQ3 nós temos a cama perfeito. O hidden batable está fácil para abrir e será. So passa aqui na AQ3 e laga nos ajudamos a ser o youthful makeover room. Design lives here.
Good evening, televiewers. Tonight, we have the pleasure and honor to speak to two youth leaders. They will share with you and your families and your children their experience, their plans, their ideas, and their dreams, all from the perspective of young people going into adulthood and beginning life. I selected them not by chance, but by choice. I welcome Raymond Maduro, sitting at my left, and Aditya Gupta, sitting at my right. Welcome, Rachel. Welcome, Aditya. Both leaders are active in many different organizations. I don't know where they get the time from, but they apparently are able to do a lot of things at the same time. God bless them. Rachel is 15 years old, was born in Aruba, speaks English, Spanish, Papiamento, and Dutch. She is active in the student council and has been so since she was 7 years old. She could barely walk by way of speech. At a very young age, she became active, which of course is part of leadership also. She has lived in Mexico, she has lived in Canada, and now Aruba again. Aditya is 18 years old, was born in India, and moved to Aruba when he was 2 months old. So his whole life he's lived in Aruba so far. He speaks English, Spanish, Hindi, and Papiamento. Both Aditya and Rachel are multicultural. They're both multilingual. And however, they felt that because of the topic, the theme, it would be easier to speak in English and to talk in English today, although they are very comfortable in Papiamento and Spanish and other languages. Aditya is also active in his school student council for many years and has participated in the Youth Parliament of Aruba and attended many functions, meetings in, for instance, St. Martin he's been for the Youth Parliament. He's even been in Geneva, Switzerland for the Youth Parliament. Wow, that's nice. Interestingly, Aditya's, one of his hobbies is public speaking, which is, of course, great for communication skills. Both Rachel and Aditya are members of the National Honor Society of their school, and they'll tell you more about it later on. Rachel first, ladies first. So share with the audiences exactly what is a student council, what does it do, what are its goals, what does it want to accomplish?
Boa noite, é placer estar aqui. And to answer your question, the Student Council is a representative structure for the students only, through which they can become involved with affairs of the school, working in partnership with school management, staff, sometimes even parents, for the benefit of the school and the students. And the reason behind the student leadership body is to let the students have a voice in matters that affect their academic lives. And I've been in the Student Council for many years, and we've accomplished a lot. We work not only with charities, but also host social events and do fundraising, not only for the school, but other causes too.
Fantastic, very good. Aditya, you share with us about your travels abroad and also tell us about the National Honor Society, which I saw on your curriculum, and I think Rachel is also involved in that.
Well, let me begin with the National Honor Society because that's the organization I've been with for a long time now.
And that's connected to your school,
And that's
right?
connected to my school, that's right. One thing, National Honor Society is a special organization for kids that demonstrate service, leadership, character, and scholarship. And once the headmaster or the teachers at the school identify these qualities in the students, they select these students, or I would like to say the elite group of students, to this society. And one thing I'm very proud of accomplishing in this organization is our long-term partnership with the YMCA. So since 2012, this is actually something that I had thought of and I'm very proud of starting. We had started a collaboration with the YMCA where we help out with their Trimer Dia program. At first we started with helping out one day, but now we're up to helping out all 5 days of the week, and that's something that I'm very proud of. And as you mentioned, my travels abroad have been very, very, I guess, have given me great experiences in different settings, focusing on very different things as well. So in St. Martin, for instance, I was Aruba's delegate, part of Aruba's delegation to the Kingdom Youth Parliament, where we discussed matters of importance within the kingdom, how we relate to each other, how we relate to the fellow islands in the kingdom, and how we all relate to the Netherlands. And when I went to Geneva, I was part of the Dutch delegation to the United Nations Child's Rights Commission, and I was proud to give a little glimpse on what it is like to be a child growing up on the Dutch Caribbean islands.
Fantastic, fantastic, incredible. I'm impressed. Okay, so next question is, how do you as adolescents, as young adults, how do you differ from us adults? Your philosophy, your thinking, and you can be honest, it's okay if it's painful. Just tell us what you think in terms of being a young adult, an adolescent, and your philosophies.
Well, I'll go first. I feel like we definitely have a different perspective and, of course, a more modern mindset, because mainly it has to do with social issues such as racism and sexism and global warming, social discrimination, those type of topics. As I feel like as the world evolves, these topics kind of alter, and for example, global warming I know is something my grandfather would have never had to really worry about or think about, but nowadays it's such a huge topic, and of course it really affects our mindset and the way we think, and it's different.
So you all think different than we think, right?
Yes.
Thank God. How do your parents motivate you, and how do they do it? Maybe both of you can talk about that a little bit.
So I know that most of any accomplishments that we have are not accomplishments that we can attribute all towards ourselves. We do have qualities, and that's why we get to where we are. But there's also a lot of help from home, from our family, and we wouldn't be where we are without them. In my case, I remember I just have a little anecdote that popped into my mind. I was a shy little 13-year-old sitting at the summer courses of Youth Parliament a couple of years ago, and I knew that I could speak well, but I was also very nervous. I was very shy, as I mentioned earlier, and my mom was sitting right next to me, and she knew what my skills and my talents were. And when the debate section of the summer courses came up, she insisted that I spoke. And I was really against it. I was like, why are you forcing me to speak? But had I not spoken that day, I guess I wouldn't be able to have joined Youth Parliament and done many of the things that I've done since then. And I guess that just gives you an idea of how much our parents and our community support us.
Yeah, and at the moment you hate it, right? And then you understand why we're doing it as parents. Mm-hmm. How about yourself, Rachel?
Well, for me, it's a really easy question to answer because, okay, my father's not going to be very happy with me saying this on national television, but he is 70 years old. He's in incredible shape. I see him wake up every single morning and work so hard for me and my brothers to go to school and to have a roof over our heads, and sometimes he'll get up even at 4 o'clock in the morning and work till 11, and it's really a motivation, and it shows how hard he works. He's a developer, and so sometimes he'll sit down with me and he'll show me some of the projects he's working on or ideas he has, and I see this passion in his eyes for what he does and how good he is at it, and it really inspires me to find what I'm passionate about and do it good. So.
That's very generous. I think he'll be happy.
Even
though he's 70 years old, he'll be happy. It's a very good explanation. And so, folks, viewers, you see that young leaders are very important because they will inspire their friends and their siblings, and a lot of it comes from home. A lot of the motivation and the push comes from home, even though sometimes they dislike it. You know, in the end, we have to, as parents, put pressure sometimes on our kids in a nice way for them to go forward. And at the same time, it's motivation for them, as Aditya explained. And once we get our young leaders on the right track with their friends and they inspire others, it's only good for our community. So my program about leadership is not only about developed and developing leaders, it's also about let's start developing leaders when they're very small. And as you can hear from Rachel, she started when she was 7 years old to get involved. And Aditya is also very much involved in a lot of these aspects. So tell us about your hobbies, Aditya, and then Rachel. What are some of your hobbies to share with our televiewers?
Well, I think it's very important to have a nice and balanced schedule, so one can't be reading or studying all the time. And as you mentioned, public speaking in the intro was one of the things that I've spent a lot of my time doing. And I think that it's very important, public speaking is very important because it allows us to communicate what feelings and what thoughts we have to the rest of the world, and it allows us to do that with an eloquency that they can understand it and appreciate what we're saying. So that's one of the things that I've been passionate about. And I've also been very active in sports, whether it's soccer, tennis, basketball. And nowadays I've toned that down a little more to a hobby as opposed to a long-term interest. But I still think that really rounds off my schedule very well.
Very interesting, very interesting. You have a pretty busy schedule, I can see. Viewers, we're going to cut for a short break. We'll be right back with you in another couple of minutes.
Bombini nung otra edición ku AQ3. Si você está buscando ideia ng como decorar o uso camera youthfully, look no further. Aqui nang na AQ3, nos por ayudar com full setup para o uso camera colorido. Começando com uma variação grande de câmera bonita. Nos diferentes sizes de study desk para câmera mais amplio e study desk para câmera mais chiquito. Nos bookcases nang, e sem olvidar stool nang colorido e wall arts nang que nos está oferecer. E para sleepover, nenhum problema. Aqui nang na AQ3 nos tem a cama perfeito. Com a hidden bathtub, que está fácil para abrir e será. So passa aqui nang na AQ3 e laga nos ajudar set up o youthful makeover room. Design lives here.
Welcome back. We're sitting at the beautiful EQ3 furniture store located across from Ling & Son supermarket. And thanks to them, we have a nice place here today to sit down, comfortable, in a little bit of a youthful environment, as you can see on your screen. So they will have their own story to tell, EQ3, but there's some really beautiful stuff here that you can buy, and also at very affordable prices, on credit, I understand. But Ghislaine will tell you more about that later. Let me get back to our youth leaders here. We just heard from Aditya, his hobbies. Impressive. Rachel, what are your hobbies?
Mainly right now I'm focused on soccer, I practice almost every week, or I try to as much as I can with the schedule I have, but I think it's really important to be active and stay fit and healthy, and so I play soccer a lot, and I read.
You swim? Do you like to swim?
Yeah.
Okay. Aditya, can you share with our viewers what are your plans for the future? Because you just finished school here, right? So you're ready to go to higher education. What are your plans? Where do you plan to go? And then what do you plan to do after, if you have already thought about that? Coming back to Aruba, you're staying abroad. Maybe you can tell our viewers a little bit about that.
So I guess some of these are subject to change. I'm, after all, an 18-year-old kid. But as of now, I'm intending on going to Georgia Institute of Technology in Atlanta and studying mechanical engineering. And for the future, as far as where do I want to work or what do I want to do, or I would say that I want to get some industry experience in the concentration that I'm interested in, which is energy conversion engineering. And that has to do with how are we going to supply energy to the ever-growing population that we have with our finite resources. So are we going to use renewable energy? Are we going to use nuclear energy? And how we can combine these into creating a sustainable way to power our future. And with the little industry experience, or with the industry experience that I hope to get, right now I feel that I should come back to Aruba and be part of the Green Aruba movement that they have here, and try to make this island one of the first all 100% powered by renewable islands in the world.
Good thoughts, good thoughts. Very good that you plan to come back, and like to hear that. And Georgia Tech is one of the best universities in the United States for tech, so like they say in Spanish, no es cualquiera cosa. It's a real good university, and I wish you a lot of luck there. Fantastic. How about you? Now, Rachel, you're 3 years younger than Aditya, so maybe your thoughts have not solidified as much, but what are your thoughts right now? And I like what Aditya said. Our thoughts are subject to change. I mean, even when we're adults, it's subject to change. So it's very reasonable that your thoughts are subject to change. So tell us a little bit about what you're thinking about the future, your career, school, etc.
Well, at the school I go to, they motivate you to already start thinking of what you want to do or specialize in when you leave high school and eventually go to college. I was thinking of fiscal law, because
tax law,
because I'm good with numbers and law interests me, so it's kind of the best of both worlds. I don't know where I'll end up, maybe University of Aruba or abroad somewhere, but that's definitely the direction I'm going in right now.
Interesting, interesting. You should. I know both of you have summer jobs, which is great. So on top of all this busy schedule, you imagine they have summer jobs too. So maybe, and I know your summer job, you told me where it is now, which is very nice, but maybe in the future you want to take a summer job with a tax office, a local tax office. Very good. Leadership, is that a concept? We're talking about big words, even though you all are very intelligent. We're talking about big words and big concept here. Do you ever think about leadership and what it means? And obviously you do. If not, you wouldn't be in all these things. But maybe you can explain to the viewers, your concepts of leadership.
Well, leadership is something that's very, very hard to define, but it's easy to see. It's easy to recognize when you see it. I'm going to paraphrase one of my colleagues from St. Martin, who I happened to meet at the Kingdom Youth Parliament. He basically had to say, leadership is not about titles or positions or flowcharts. It's about how you can influence others to achieving a certain goal. And oftentimes that doesn't come from the titles or the positions or the flowchart or the map of a command structure. That follows. What comes first is the action that you show or what you do. So that's why it's very easy to recognize when you see a leader, and it's very hard, and then the title follows them. That's my perception of the idea.
Rachel, how about yourself?
Well, at this point, I can't really formulate into words what I believe is a concept of leadership. So I found a quote by Warren Bennis, and it says, "I used to think that running an organization was equivalent to conducting a symphony orchestra, but I don't think that's quite it. It's more like jazz. There is more improvisation." So that's what that quote really exemplifies my way of thinking of leadership, and a lot of it has to do with listening and, of course, going with the flow a little bit. So.
Interesting, interesting. You know, my friend and our famous Aruban musician, Carlos Bislip, will be happy to hear that because he's a fantastic musician, a brilliant and talented man. And I've always, you know, equivalent the leadership with an orchestra, conducting an orchestra. But you added jazz to it. So that's why Carlos will be very happy to hear that. Did you hear that, Carlos? Jazz. In the context of leadership, in the context of conducting an orchestra, but jazz. Very good. I think that's a very nice description also. So let's talk about another big word. I hate to bring it, but I can see you guys can handle all of this stuff. Conflict resolution. You know, I think that one of the big things that leaders get confronted with, and it's important that they know about, is how to solve conflict. You see all around you. You see in politics, you see in organizations, even in sports, you see a lot of conflict. And one of the themes and one of the things that leaders have to deal with is conflict resolution. Can you talk a little bit about that, Aditya?
Well, you touched on a very great subject right there. Obviously, we're still very young and we have a lot of experience to go and garner with conflict resolution. But in my experiences, I've always thought that the best way to resolve conflicts is to find mutual interest and to make sure that both the conflict does not get in the way of the mutual interest. So if you identify a mutual interest and you say that, you know, like two people, they have something in common, and then when you start with that, that's an easier way to resolve any differences that they may have. So that's one thing, that's one way I'd like to look at that scenario.
Interesting. How about you, Rachel? You have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, well, conflicts, I believe, arise from differing needs, and some, if not most, conflicts stem from difference in culture and mindset. I go to a school that holds students from 35 different countries, which is a lot. So you're in school 5 days a week, 7 hours a day, with people who were brought up differently than you were. And so there are bound to be conflicts and collisions. But how I personally deal with it is by learning to accept other people's differences and really keep an open mind, and which is the best way to conclude to a compromise. And I think it's important to realize that maybe not everyone will always agree with you, and that's okay sometimes.
Very interesting, because indeed a lot of conflicts come out of a difference of culture, no? And I've seen it many times in organizations where, let's say somebody from a European country makes a comment which he or she thinks is funny, but a Spanish-speaking or local Papiamento-speaking person doesn't think it's funny at all. They think it's an insult. And so the differences between culture is very important to understand, and that's, I would stress as a very important point in leadership, is understanding other cultures so you can deal with them. And as Rachel very eloquently explained, and you all are so fortunate to live in an island where there's so many cultures at your school around you, and you're already learning how to deal with those different cultures. Fantastic. You're real internationalists. Now, being leaders, also in young leaders, we always have to be sensitive to the community and the needs of the community. And needs of the community, you frequently find social causes. And one of my social causes is trying to share what I know about leadership and management. And however, there are a lot of other social organizations that I understand you all are also involved in. So maybe you can explain a little bit of the social causes that you're involved in, how you deal with it.
Well, your timing couldn't have been better on this, because last Saturday, Rachel and I were both participating in the Feria Social project that was going on for many months before, and the finale of that project was last Saturday. And as part of that project, we were part of a group that worked with SVGA, the organization that deals with handicapped people with handicapped, whether it's mental or physical, and we were trying to build a website that better communicated what they stand for as an organization to the rest of the Aruban public and to future clients that might not know of them already or that might be unsure of what they bring. And that's something that we spent a lot of time over this year. And as I mentioned earlier, YMCA was something that I had committed to a lot in the past, and it's something that I'm very proud of starting a project
Excellent,
with.
excellent. In fact, That's where I saw you and Rachel talking on
starting,
stage, and Minister Paul Cruz was also there. And that's where I got the idea of inviting you at that stage, by the way. Rachel, can you quickly also, we're getting to the end, quickly sum up social causes you're involved with?
Well, I couldn't have said it better. Aditya and I have been involved together in a lot of social work and also charity, and through our school mainly, and through student council and the National Honor Society. So
let me get to the final, and that is, what do you all as youth leaders, future youth leaders, and present youth leaders have to share with our televiewers, with the children and the kids of your age? What is the one point you can bring forward as an important point, and then you, Rachel?
Well, I would say a biggest part of leadership is just showing up, honestly. It's something that we overlook a lot of the times, but if you identify with something, if you like a cause, or if you feel strongly about a certain cause, show up.
Go there.
Go there.
Right.
That's a major part. That's the biggest part of it. And then obviously comes the action, or the what do you want, how you're going to influence others in there. But to the first message I would give everyone is just show up. Yeah.
Rachel.
I think at my age, friends are a big influence of the person you are and the actions you do. And so I think to surround yourself with good, genuine people who motivate you and push you to be the best version of yourself that you can be is really important, because you need the type of people who are going to congratulate and celebrate your success and not be jealous and envious of it.
Very good. Televiewers, we're coming to an end. I want to thank you for allowing us in your home again. I hope you enjoyed this episode with youth leaders, because I'll tell you, I enjoyed it very, very much. It was great. Thank you very much, and until next Monday evening, after Telenoticias and after Lotto, we'll be back again with another episode.